We should have names for everybody, like a producer. Is that the producer? Okay.
You're the chair. Seth's the producer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Richard's the vice chair.
And the other secretary.
I'm the peon. Yep.
Wow. I think we're almost live, Penny.
Okay, let's open up the meeting.
Okay, everybody in? Oh, okay, good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This meeting's being held remotely as an alternate means of public access pursuant to an order issued by the Governor of Massachusetts dated March 12, 2020, superseding certain provisions of the open meeting law. You're hereby advised that this meeting and all communications during this meeting may be recorded by the town of Scituate in accordance with the open meeting law. The meeting will have a question and answer session following each hearing. Abutters will have the ability to raise the hand. Please keep total comments to less than 5 minutes. Thank you very much. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda?
I don't think so, Frank.
Okay, so
Make a motion to accept the agenda as written.
thank you, Penny.
You're welcome.
All in favor? So Richard and Doug are both out. Jen?
Yep.
And Edie's going to be late. Brendan?
Yes.
And Frank, yes. So we got 4 of us to start. Thanks. 141 Driftway. The applicant is Paul Sharon. The representative is Morse Engineering. Greg, are you on? Gonna read
Good evening.
Good. I'm gonna open. I'll read the notice and then we'll go. On May 17th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. in the Town Hall, the Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws and Section 32050 of the Town of Scituate Stormwater Bylaw regarding the application of Driftway Properties LLC to construct a duplex and 2 single-family dwellings, as well as a gravity sewer connection at a location at 141 Driftway, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting is available on the agenda posted on the website. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Gregory Morse. I'm a registered engineer representing the applicant Paul Sheeran. As was just read into the record, this is a notice of intent as well as a stormwater permit application for 3 new dwellings located at 141 Driftway. The property is depicted here on the plan. The exterior property line is the black line. Driftway is at the top left corner of the screen. It consists of 3 lots, lots A, B, and C. There are 2 existing homes on this property. The topography generally ranges from elevation 33 at the street to elevation 9, which is at the rear of the site. The rear of the site, which is the bottom right corner of the screen here, you'll see highlighted in blue a bordering vegetated wetland. We had that delineated by Brad Holmes, a professional wetland scientist out in the field. Off of that in red is the 50-foot buffer zone, and in green, the 100-foot buffer zone. The commission retained Art Allen of Ecotech to perform a peer review of that wetland line. And that wetland line, short of a couple of minor flag changes, I believe has been signed off on by Mr. Allen. I would note along that back rear lot line is where the town of Scituate sewer easement is. There's an existing 30-inch sewer pipe that actually runs through the wetlands that the town owns. And there's a stub onto this property that has never been connected to. That stub we'll talk about further in a minute, but that is located inside the 50-foot buffer zone to that wetland. Also on this site are FEMA floodplains, land subject to coastal storm flowage, again at the rear of the site. It's a zone AE at elevation 16 and an AE at elevation 14. All of the dwellings that you see are located above the floodplain elevation. So the proposal here is to take down the 2 homes that exist at the site today and replace them with 2 new single families. And then the 3rd lot would be a duplex building. They would all have access driveways off of the street. Utilities coming off the street would be water, electric, and gas services. The sewer connection, however, would be to the rear of the property. It would tie into the existing stub, which is within the 50-foot buffer zone. To mitigate stormwater impacts for this site, what we've proposed is we've proposed that the roofs of each dwelling be connected to a leaching chamber system to promote infiltration. We had very sandy soil here, less than 2 minute per inch perk rates. Secondly, we would take the driveways, we would direct those into pea stone, crushed stone trenches, which would then overflow to sediment forebays in rain gardens at the back of a site. Ultimately, all of the stormwater from this site discharges into land subject to coastal storm flowage. So rates and volumes don't necessarily have to be mitigated. It's attached to the ocean. All of the homes here, again, are outside the floodplain. All of the homes are outside the 100-foot buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetland. The work that is within the floodplain and within the 100-foot buffer consists of grading associated with the back of the site, construction of the rain gardens, and connection of the sewer to the stub that was left at the back of the property. The DEP had no technical comments on this. The commission also hired John Chesia to perform a peer review of the stormwater system. John's latest report dated April 27th, I believe substantially agrees with the calculations that we have. There are a couple of minor items that he is looking for additional info, but we thought we'd bring this forth to the commission and incorporate any of your comments into the next round of revisions with this. I turn it over to you.
Okay, I think we're going to go right to Art or John. I don't, whoever wants to go first.
This is Art Allen from Ecotech. I'm relatively easy. As Greg noted, I did review this site, visited the site on March 1st, evaluated the wetland boundary that was flagged by ECR and Brad Holmes. Just had the small adjustment that Greg mentioned, basically just eliminated 2 flags and connected wetland flag A2 to A5. And that adjustment's been made on the plans. I believe the stormwater improvements that Greg mentioned, those I think have been added to the plan since I reviewed it, but regardless, you know, looks like the limits of work are outside of the 50-foot. I think that's a lawn area anyway, and stormwater obviously measures have to go at the low point of the site. So obviously within the buffer. Yeah, the only inner buffer zone work, as Greg noted, is the sewer connection. I believe in one of the plans that connection is a little more detailed with some siltation erosion controls, but I did not have an issue with connecting to an existing stub as long as it's, you know, properly controlled and stabilized and vegetated after the work. Yeah, and as I believe Greg noted, there's really no performance standards for lands subject to coastal storm flowage, such as with bordering land subject to flooding, where you need to provide compensatory storage. That's not a requirement with the coastal flood zone. You just have to show that you're not, you know, altering the course of that flood water, directing it onto other properties, et cetera. I mean, it did not appear to me that that would be the case with this project, but I would defer to John. It's more of an engineering call in terms of the the grading design, et cetera. So that's about it for me. If there's any questions from me, I'd be glad to take them. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Does anybody have any questions for Art at this time?
No.
Okay, John?
So I think there's some technical things, but I think one of the bigger ones is that the rain gardens, the way that there's a couple things. I think the town has accepted rain gardens for rate control, but they're actually asking for a waiver for rate control, so it may be moot. But if the commission agrees with that, and I think if it's coastal flood zone, it's probably not going to make any difference in a 100-year storm. But the wetland is actually, I think, a freshwater wetland, not a salt marsh. So there is some, value to the smaller storms. But the measurement to groundwater in a rain garden is from the bottom of the media, not from the surface of the rain garden. And so they don't have enough separation to meet recharge or treatment. So they'd have to come up. I mean, this plan changed from sort of an open grass depression to the rain gardens. I think the rain gardens are probably better, but they might have to move them up the hill to get them a little higher and just make sure that the water from the driveway gets in there. They may have to swale it. I'm not sure, but I think that's an issue. I think, there's some modeling errors that I think can be corrected, although their response letter claims that they can't, but I disagree with that completely. You can do some adjustments to make that so you don't have the modeling errors with instability and things like that. Lastly, I think, there's a lot of little issues, but I think these are the biggie ones. And so there's 3 lots, there's 2 rain gardens, each one has its own roof system. I mean, reportedly, I guess one person's gonna own them for now, but they're all independent. And how all of the stormwater is managed over time, because somebody could easily spin off one of the lots, and then who's responsible? There should be an association of something that takes care of this. And if the association is one person right now, that's fine, but it's in the deeds recorded. So if one gets transferred out, then they're part of it, and whatever easements or requirements you need to have should be in place. The roof systems are individually located on each lot, but the rain gardens, there's 2 of them for 3 lots, and they kind of take water from all over. So I think that is an issue. So in terms of compliance, without the groundwater separation, they wouldn't meet recharge or TSS removal. And depending upon the commission's feelings relative to the rate control, they don't necessarily meet that either, but that can be waived because of the floodplain, coastal floodplain issue.
Okay.
Can we go back to Greg? Do you want to respond to any of that first before we go to any members? Thank you, John.
Sure. I think moving the rain gardens up the hill is a viable solution to get the groundwater separation required. You have a rain garden of very similar characteristics at the dog park, which is in the vicinity of this project. So it's been used in an application similar in this location. But if we move it up the hill, I'm confident we can get the groundwater separation necessary.
Okay, any of the other points or?
Yeah, I mean, adding another swale to help direct water from the driveways to the rain garden is easily addressable. The creation of a homeowners association. These are individual lots. We did have an O&M plan that stated that each lot owner would be responsible for the stormwater devices on their property. So, each of the rain gardens would be maintained, one being on lot A, one being on lot C. And then each homeowner would be responsible for their own roof dry well system. It is intended for the short term here that there would be one owner that would own all three of these lots, but John is correct. They could be conveyed at some point in the future. You know, if easements were required onto individual lots at that time, I think easements would be granted. But right now, each individual lot is supposed to be maintained by its owner. That's how the O&M plan has been written.
Amy, again, there's a fair amount going on here. Do you want to make any comments before we go to commission members?
Well, I mean, just for the commission members to understand that, you know, like normally, you know, so for the NOI, the work is applies to, you know, work within the buffer or your resource areas. But a lot of this review really does fall under this stormwater bylaw. So that's really, you know, what John's taking a look at. So it rises up over what we normally would take, like getting into the minutia and the detail of the stormwater and how and whether it meets that bylaw. So that the talk definitely gets a lot more specific than work in a buffer of a resource area. So just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Yeah, there's a fair amount going on and we don't usually get that involved in more complex stormwater pieces, but all right. I'm gonna go to I guess Penny.
Okay, my only question, Greg, is I might have missed it when you were making your presentation, but I'm not finding where the rain gardens actually are on each lot.
Sure. So there's two rain gardens.
Are those the ovals?
Those are the ovals at the back of the lots. There's one on right there where the cursor is on lot A.
Okay,
There's another one on lot C right there. Yep.
and lot B doesn't need one.
No, the way that lot B is graded off, the runoff from the driveway is directed toward the rain garden on lot A.
Okay, so when you were saying you're gonna move it up the hill, is that towards the homes or away from the home? Oh, well, I could look at the,
Toward the homes.
yeah, the elevations. I'm having a hard time seeing. I'm getting old. Okay. That was my question right now.
All right, we can circle back.
Sure.
Thank you, Penny. Jen?
I guess just related to what you were just talking about, Greg and Penny, the water from B is flowing onto A? Is that what you were saying?
Correct. The water that comes off the driveway on lot B is directed toward the rain garden on lot A.
Is there anything, and this feels like a complex algebra problem to a certain degree of like, if A, B, and when does the train arrive? But what are the regulations around water from one lot going to another lot, purposely being directed to another?
Yeah, it happens all the time. You know, if this was a subdivision project, it would flow from one lot onto another lot to a common drainage system. If these were individual lots that were owned by different property owners, this application would require that there'd be easements granted in between the individual lots. However, in this scenario, one person owns all three lots, so they can't grant themselves an easement, but they have the rights to work over the lot line and direct water as they please.
Okay.
Can we go back to that? Right.
What's that, Penny?
So when you're saying B from the driveway, that's gonna drain actually over to lot A. Does it stay on their property before it crosses over? Or does it go directly over and then down to the rain garden?
It kind of comes over the end of the driveway. There's a crushed stone, pea stone diaphragm
Okay,
And then after it flows out of that, it flows over land for approximately 80 feet before it's directed into the rain garden. And during that 80 feet, it transitions from the lot line from B over onto lot A.
okay. So if he sells B,
Yep.
is
So,
B going to have a problem with A because the water's going over there? That's all.
no, he shouldn't, because that's the direction that the water will be flowing. And lot A is required to construct that rain garden, which is sized appropriately for both lots.
Okay,
In the O&M plan states that the owner of lot A is responsible for the stormwater devices on lot A. Lot B likewise would be responsible for their stormwater, which is just a roof system. They wouldn't have a rain garden.
okay,
Yep.
okay. Thank you very much, Greg.
And one thing you might want to consider is having a condition on this. That, I mean, we all know that homeowners move in and if the properties are sold and they don't always like the way their house is graded or whatever, and if they don't know what's going on, lot A could just put up something that deflects the water away. So you would want some sort of restriction on that they can't alter those grades in the future that would affect the drainage.
Amy, thank you, John. Amy, when, just clarification, when we do our orders of conditions, do we also include pieces of the stormwater, or do we have a separate document for the stormwater?
No, we make the stormwater part of the orders,
Okay,
Okay.
which is, I mean, I have to say that right out of the gate, administratively, that was one of the things that perplexed me as far as, one NOI, 3 separate addresses. Because I mean, I just, in the long run, so if lot A is sold before lot C, now they want a C of C. The other ones, you know what I mean? It's tied to this order. Now you're going to be in the giving out partial C of C, or just, I don't know. But Greg had an answer for that at the time I thought was acceptable. So that's how it's only one NOI.
We've done that in the past.
all right. Brendan?
I have no question at this time.
Yeah. It's funny, this one is kind of a minimal wetlands issue.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Amy, do you want to add anything else to this?
Well, one thing is for Morris, I just want to make sure that all the other applicable town boards have been, asked for opinions on, make sure you're going to get approvals, like access would be one that comes to mind right away. Making sure that also the DPW is going to allow you to tie in, just because there's a stub doesn't mean there's capacity. I just want to make sure that those boxes are all checked. And to the extent that John's reviewed, those types of things that normally would be part of the planning board process, honestly, on, a bigger project like this. It's unusual to see something quite like this, but I mean, I'm not saying it's not approvable, because certainly the work in the buffer to the resource area is pretty minimal. And with that respect, I mean, I think we can definitely get orders. It's just administrating, the paperwork part of it, and compliance, making sure that it's actually a project that can be built, because you can actually access a busy road or, bad corner, or I don't know, things like that.
If I may add, we've already been with the sewer department and shared the plans with them for the connection, which they're on board with. We've been to the planning board with our curb cut application, and that was approved as well.
Thank you. Amy, do you want to add anything?
No, I mean, we're not looking to close this tonight, so we're here to get some feedback on kind of, where John and or actually based on John's last comments and where Greg is going to take the next revised plan, so that hopefully when it does come back to the board, it will be, ready to close. I think you need to take public comment.
Yep.
And then hopefully we could get some revised plans back from Morse, back to Chesia, and final sign-offs, and then have a meeting where we can agree to some special conditions. I mean, the easement thing sounds pretty important to me, and just, how legally this is going to be binding to all three of the lots as they're bought and sold. And, I just think of all the calls that the town does get on projects that, new build projects. How are they going to comply, right?
Okay. Do we have anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this?
And that would be by raising your hand with the raise hand icon down at the bottom of the page. Is how you get on. Raise hand icon.
See anybody, Jen?
I don't see anybody, Frank.
Andy Gallagher's on now.
Yeah, I'm here, Frank.
Oh, great. Andy, did you have a chance to look at this plan at all, or hear any of the?
I did. I looked at it, but I'm kind of catching up here as I've signed on.
Sure. Well, you can jump in. I've got a couple of questions. So, Greg, just these eventually are going to be sold to different individuals, correct?
It's not the applicant's intention to sell them right away. It's his intention to hold them and to rent them out.
I see.
But at some point in the future, absolutely, they'd be sold.
Sure. So I recall having an issue like that. I owned a couple pieces of property and couldn't get the easement because I owned both of them. And then when they were split up, unfortunately, the attorney didn't get the easement thing right away, which turned into a little bit of a hassle. I mean, even if it's in an order. So these orders will go with each address though, correct? I mean, they're not going to be.
It's a blanket order for the entire project.
But there's 3 parcels of property, right? I mean,
Correct.
you did a Form A or something to make these 3 parcels.
We did. They're all on one deed at this point. They haven't been conveyed. So the order would be recorded against that one deed at this point.
Okay. But the order will go to all 3 properties over time or whatever. They'll be recorded against each address, right?
Yes.
Maybe Art has some suggestions for us on this one. Art, if you're still on the call. I mean, maybe we really need to be doing 3 separate orders so that when they go, it's less, it's cleaner.
Art's here, sir. There's no, I mean, the order will be recorded on, on the one deed for the 3 properties, obviously, and then as they're sold, if the order's still open, it would it would transfer to the individual properties. Or I assume you would have, continuing conditions in the certificates of compliance. Those would, if those are there for the rain gardens or whatever, those would also transfer to the individual properties. I mean, properties are bought and sold all the time, so I don't really see. I mean, sometimes it's an advantage for the builder applicant to have individual orders, just so they're not all, tied up under one, just it can be inconvenient if they're finished and sold at different times. Like you say, you need partials, but that's really up to the applicant to make that call. But yeah, I mean, orders and certificates with perpetual conditions, those are transferred all the time on deeds. I had one thought, maybe Greg and John, I mean, I'm not an engineer, obviously, but I'm wondering if it would help to clarify the issue with future easements, if maybe just like a future easement could be drafted onto these plans to be approved. It wouldn't, it can't be a, recorded easement at this point, but could it just be a future easement noted on the plan, just so people are more comfortable and it's obvious to people as the plans develop and are transferred that's what would need to be done if the lots are sold off. That's just a thought as a non-engineer.
Thank you, John. Thank you. All right, appreciate it. Let's just say, Amy, we're not closing this. I'm not seeing get a revised plan, moving the rain gardens away from the wetland a little bit more. And give some thought to concerns about how the orders are applied. But I can't think of anything else. You have all the notes, Greg, you have all the notes from John, so what you've got to address, correct?
I do, yes.
And is there anything that you would disagree with, or are you guys pretty much in agreement with what has to get done?
I think we're pretty much in agreement with what has to get done.
Okay. All right. How long will it take to get that sorted out?
We will have our revised plans back to the commission Friday of this week.
This week?
This week.
Good, so why don't we continue it to June 21st then?
What do we have for meetings before that?
We don't have available meetings before that.
All right. Okay. Get a motion then for
I make a
continue this.
motion, we continue 141 New Driftway to June 21st, you said?
I have a conflict. Well, you're early though. You meet at 5:30. I have, at this point in time, I have an in-person in Plimpton at 6 on the 21st of June. But if everything is done, I don't know that you need me.
Yeah.
Well, we can put you on first.
Well, I got to drive to Plimpton.
Oh, I see.
First or last, but I kind of agree that the next time I really want to see this project is when we're closing it. Like, we have major volume issues going on here, so the next time I think it should be all together, which would be June 21st, or the one after that is going to be July 12th. So,
Well, the 21st.
which both dates will be here before you know it, honestly.
So we don't have any room on June 7th.
No,
Just to
Alright.
close?
All right. Well, let's do it for the 21st. And then any correspondence or whatever, John, hopefully, if there's any issues, we can get that all to the commission beforehand.
Yeah. Well, when
Okay.
I get the stuff, I'll, I like everybody's got a lot going on, but when
Sure.
I will look at it and get it out as quick as I can.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion, right, Penny?
Yes,
Everyone.
we need a second.
We have a
I'll
second.
second.
That's Brendan. So all in favor, Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Frank, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good
Thanks,
night,
everyone.
everybody.
Good
Night.
night. Thanks, Art.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
24 Old Mouth. On May 17th, 2021, 5:30 PM, the Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40, Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700, Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of William and Margaret Whittier Trust for work related to a septic repair and a dwelling at location at 24 Old Mouth Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the meeting will be available in the agenda posted on the town website. So we have Morse Engineering for this one.
Good evening. Again, for the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer. I'm representing the applicant, William and Mary Whittier Trust. This is a septic system upgrade project located at 24 Old Mouth Road. Depicted on the plan here on the left-hand side of the screen is the lot. Old Mouth Road is at the bottom of the screen. This is in the Hummerock section of town. The property right now, it's occupied by a 4-bedroom house. You'll see the house depicted there on the middle of the lot. The lot is rather small in size. It's a little over 3,000 square feet. It's located on a barrier beach. It's also located within land subject to coastal storm flowage. A FEMA zone AE14, while the topography at the lot ranges between elevation 8 and 9. The proposal here is to construct a new septic system. The house right now is served by a cesspool in the backyard, which has failed a Title V inspection. So the proposal is to put a new septic tank and a pump chamber in the backyard, and then in the front yard underneath the driveway to construct 2 crushed stone leaching trenches. It's a 4-bedroom house. This is a 4-bedroom septic system. This plan has been approved by the Board of Health. DEP had no comments. All of the work is within area that's previously disturbed. There's no removal of vegetation associated with this project. It's existing gravel and sand or patio areas that are being disturbed. Turn it over to you.
Thank you, Greg. Jen?
I think I'm good for now. It feels simple.
Pretty straightforward one.
Yeah, I'm like, what am I missing? Where's the trick?
Okay.
No trick, just
No,
treats. I'm good.
Andy?
No, I'm okay.
Brendan?
I have no questions.
Amy?
Yeah, so
Oh,
DEP.
did I skip Penny?
Yeah, but I don't have any questions. It's very straightforward.
Thanks. Steph.
Thank
All
you.
right. Amy?
Yes, very straightforward. Big improvement, Board of Health approval, no DEP comments. Appears to meet the requirements of Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw. I think we should close it. Well, ask for butters first, please.
Yep. Anybody in the audience? Anyone put the hand up for this one? Not seeing anybody. I don't have any questions. I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to close.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Brendan. All in favor, Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Greg.
you.
125 Driftway, Widows Walk.
250
already-
Driftway,
250 Driftway. We already opened this, right?
Widows Walk. Yep, it's a continued from 4521. Brendan Sullivan's on the line if I can find. You're on, Brendan.
All right, great, thanks. I'm assuming, can you hear me?
Got you.
Oh, great.
Good evening.
So as a follow-up, you saw this plan back in April 5th. And I had revised some of the stormwater detention areas. It's been through a full review with Merrill Associates. They seem okay with everything. I did get a comment from Amy as far as, so this is in the Water Resource Protection District. And they have two requirements. Basically, the separation of groundwater is supposed to be 3 feet. I have 6 feet of separation in the infiltration basin that's down adjacent to the driftway, the roadway itself. But they also require a 90% TSS removal, which is usually 80%. The infiltration basin will get us there at 80%. However, it doesn't get us to the 90% that's required for the Water Resource Protection District. If you do remember, this is it's a redevelopment. We're decreasing the pavement area in the parking lot. And also the infiltration basin is designed so that it has minimum flow, minimum outflow during the 2-year event. Actually, the infiltration basin itself, it doesn't even reach the outlet invert during the 2-year event. Like there's 5.5 CFS coming in, and there's 0.3, no, I'm sorry, there's 6.6 CFS coming in during the 2-year event, and there's 0.38 leaving the system. I'm sorry, that's the 10-year storm. The 2-year event is totally contained within the infiltration system. So what I'm getting at is that most of the parking lot will be going through this infiltration basin before it gets into the drainage system in the street. So I think we're doing, as they say, to the maximum extent practicable for the site.
Thank you, Brendan.
Right now.
Andy, any comment?
No, I mean, I think we've seen this a couple times. I guess I'm curious to hear other comment about those standards Brendan was just talking about, but I'm otherwise okay for now.
Okay. Brendan?
Yeah, I really don't have a comment. I guess except, could you like go over that again? Are we like not meeting some standard we're supposed to meet, or?
Sure.
The 80%.
Sure. So typical DEP regulations are to remove 80% TSS removal. That's total suspended solids. And most of this coming from a parking lot runoff. You get sand, silt, oil, all of the other contaminants that come from a parking lot. So you're required to remove 80% of that. With this being in the local Water Resource Protection District, your local bylaw says you need to remove 90% of that, or a more stringent threshold for that. But like I said, this is technically, it's a redevelopment. We're decreasing the area of pavement within the parking lot by, I believe, about 3,000 square feet. So technically, I only have to do to what they call the maximum extent practicable, meaning that it's a redevelopment. So when we are doing more than, I mean, what's there today is basically nothing. It just runs, across the parking lot, through a grassed area, and then out into the street, and then goes into the catch basins. So right now there's no TSS removal, basically. What this does is it gets you 80%. So it doesn't get to the full 90%. But like I said, there is also a vertical separation that we are doubling. There's a minimum 3-foot separation in groundwater. The bottom of this infiltration basin is 6 feet above groundwater. So we are, there's going to be some additional treatment there. Is it measurable? Well, I don't know if it would be twice as much, but I think it gets us closer to 90%, if that makes sense.
That does. Thank you.
Question.
I have no other question.
Thank you. Great. Penny?
Yeah, this is gonna be a great improvement down there with the landscaping and the drainage. So I really don't have any questions. I'm glad it's finally going forward.
Jen?
I'm sure I missed this, but are the trees all covered under like a planting plan where if they don't last for 3 years, they get replaced or something like that?
Yes, there's
Okay.
there's some details and some notes on page
Okay,
2
cool.
on the detail sheet that
Awesome.
that spell all that out.
Like I said, I'm sure I missed it in the conversations because there have been so many. I'm good.
Amy?
Yeah, so Brendan, thanks for taking the time to explain that twice, because it is, I mean, so it's a little confusing, right? Because we're not engineers, we're just people here. And, these are typically our projects are septic systems and single family homes and so on and so forth. So a bigger stormwater review like this, we want to make sure as many of the boxes are checked as are supposed to be checked. It's also a town project in the forefront of, visibility. So again, we want to make sure that we're checking all the boxes to the extent, maximum extent practicable, I guess, as you could say. Peter Palmieri from Merrill did review this twice. And the first comment letter, was missing information, like, so test pits were made and, additional information was gotten together. And actually the plan did change, rather substantially from the first version. But I think, like you've said, this is all in all it's going to be a huge improvement over what's there. I don't know, as far as Merrill's letter and what was open-ended, it was the comment about the TSS not being up at that 90%. 80% is better than 0 for sure. 90% would be, would be the top level. I guess my question for Brendan would be, at what expense would it be to get to that, extra 10%? I know it would be a matter of maybe bringing in some organic soils and some additional plants is the suggestion that I got from Peter. So is there a cost that you can put to that, Brendan, as to why, we would say?
I mean, yeah, I'd certainly be amenable to, adding plantings to the bottom of the infiltration basin that could, help stabilize the soil and also, help filtrate the water additionally than just having the sand and the grass there.
Okay, and other than that, I don't have much else. I mean, were other boards good with this? There was some back and forth with DPW this afternoon. They were, Sean McCarthy said that he was good with the plan. Comment from our town planner, Karen, was with respect to the number of spots and whether there was additional parking spots, because that might be relevant to their permit. But other than that, I mean, I think that we might be good to close potentially tonight.
Yeah.
And I do see a hand up from Greg Moore.
Can I just ask a question, Brendan? And we'll get to Greg in a second, but in the water protection district, are we allowed to have subsurface drainage?
It specifically says dry wells, which I consider a dry well more of a almost like a leaching basin, if you want to call it, more vertical than it is horizontal into the sand surface. I mean, they do, it's funny because they require recharge, but then they say no dry well. So I think of a dry well as being, like I said, a more of a vertical structure. The one I have is more of a horizontal, and we have that, like I said, we have twice the separation of groundwater from the bottom of the infiltration system.
So you're referring to that 1 by 1 long trench as a dry well?
Yes, well, that's the infiltration basin. There's also some dry wells, not dry wells, there's some infiltration basins up by the clubhouse itself to capture some roof runoff.
Okay, but in like the detention area, there's these 1 foot by 1 foot by 25 foot long 3/4 inch stone trenches.
Oh,
and then
yes.
and then those have I'm assuming some sort of perf pipe.
That's really not a pipe. The runoff from the parking lot comes down and goes through that. So it's almost like a pre-treatment for the infiltration basin.
Yeah, but then isn't it also showing another one under the
That's at
detention?
the bottom of the basin. That's to collect any, so it makes sure that there's no standing water there at the end of a rain event.
I see. Okay. Well, I get the difficulty with the TSS, and like you say, it seems like there's an awful lot of improvement compared to what we had, but so why don't we let Greg on if you can. We got another engineer's comment.
Can you hear me?
Greg, you're on, yep.
Great, thank you. Brendan, this plan looks great. As a citizen of town, thank you for drawing it. I just have kind of a question, I guess, as it relates to the planning board approval, because I believe this plan is significantly different than what they approved, being that you eliminated the second access. In the access way in on this plan here, you have cars coming in on the left-hand side of the road and exiting on the right-hand side of the road. It's completely backwards. Is that going back to the planning board for review, or what's that's my main concern there, is the access way.
Right. Yeah. I actually didn't pick up on that myself. It's not, I don't believe it's going back to the planning board for their review, because the original parking space count, where we don't trigger a site plan review, because there was 156 spaces shown in the original, 152 spaces shown in the original approval, and we're showing 156. So we're increasing it by 4 spaces. I think 5 or more triggers a site plan review through planning board.
But your point, Greg, is the traffic flow, the entrance.
Yeah, the traffic flow, that is, I think,
Right,
has to be looked at a little bit.
That does make sense there. I can certainly adjust that.
We're really branching outside of our
Purview.
That's it. Otherwise, looks great. Thank you for doing this.
Great. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Greg, thanks for the
So wait a minute. So Brendan, are you saying you're gonna add the second access back? Or
No, just
there's
the,
just
okay.
these arrows are
just the
arrows
arrows,
are on.
the entrances. Yeah, you don't entrance, as you know, entering a driveway, you stay to the right. This has you going to the left. It's, against what they teach you in driver's ed.
Yes.
So we get a little bit of everything tonight. A little traffic, a little bit of stormwater, a little bit of driver's ed.
oh,
Good.
all right. I appreciate that. Anything else? Anybody want to add?
Any other abutters or other people want to raise their hand?
I think the golfers are going to go where they want to go anyways.
Yeah. Okay, you want a motion?
I do.
Oh, make a motion to close.
Get that from Penny. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Get a second from Brendan. Thank you. All in favor? Jen,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks. Now we're on to 60, the new Driftway. On May 17th, 2021, 5:30 PM in the Town Hall, Situate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Situate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of the Riverway Condominium Trust for work related to connecting 26 residential units to town sewer and decommissioning unused components of an existing sewage system at dwelling location 60, the new Driftway, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. Good evening. What do we have for that? CHA?
Looks like we have Scott Arnold.
Hello, good evening. Can you
Good
hear me?
evening. Got you.
Okay, great. It's for the record, Scott Arnold from CHA. We are before the commission this evening, having submitted a notice of intent for the property at 60 New Driftway. This is the Riverway condominium location. The site has 7 existing buildings that house 26 condominium units, and it's now served by 3 separate Title V septic systems. And the project involves connecting the units, all the units, to the existing town sewer that's located in New Driftway. Since the site is much lower than the street, it would involve installing 2 separate grinder pump stations and force main up to the street and to the existing gravity sewer in New Driftway. As far as the resource areas, we are within the riverfront area to the Herring River, and 100-foot buffer zone to a coastal bank and a salt marsh area, and they're all depicted on the plans. So the condominium has been experienced some issues with one of the systems in particular. So this is the reason why they are making application to connect to the town sewer. So that's the project in a nutshell. I should mention also that a portion of the project is within land subject to coastal storm flowage. FEMA has established the 100-year flood elevation at elevation 16 in this area. So the pump stations, each of the pump stations will be located near where the existing pump tankage and septic tanks are located. The force mains will be routed through the existing or underneath the existing access driveway. So they'll all be within, the paved surface of the driveways to the site. And, there'll be no change in grading at all. All areas that are disturbed by construction will be restored to their, original condition or pre-construction condition. There's no change in grades proposed or anything like that. So, this essentially will be the same site after construction as it is today. We did receive approval from the Board of Selectmen last week for connection to the town sewer, and also received a file number today from the DEP. Our file number is 068-2921. We did note on the notice of intent the square footage of alteration within the land subject to coastal storm flowage, and then within the riverfront area. But those are all, again, as I mentioned, temporary impacts. After the pump stations and force main are installed, all surfaces will be restored to their original condition and grade. I should also mention that these pump stations will be supplied with backup power generation should there be a loss of power, so that there'll be no issue with overflowing or backup to the system. And of course, the systems will be monitored with the controller and can be remotely monitored with these controllers that will be installed. So I think that's it. There's erosion sedimentation controls that will be installed. We're proposing a silt sock at the top of the bank at the salt marsh area, and then along the driveway in the easterly part of the site near the marina building, and then as well as along the northerly portion of the site. All catch basins will be furnished with silt sacks to prevent any sedimentation. And then we've also proposed a construction entrance up closer to Driftway, outside of the buffer zone, to prevent any tracking of sedimentation and silts and soil into Driftway. As far as the profile of the force main, it's will be 5 feet deep. It'll be below all other utilities. And it's an 1.5 inch diameter pipe, so it's a very small pressure pipe that would be installed. We're proposing to connect up in Driftway. There's an existing service lateral that was installed when Driftway was the sewer in Driftway was constructed, so we'll be using that service lateral that was installed for this purpose. And then of course, on connection to the town sewer, the existing septic systems would be abandoned in accordance with Title V and the town requirements. So that is my description of the property. I'll turn it over to the board for questions.
Thank you. I go there. I guess Andy.
No, I mean, there's a lot in the plans here, but that was pretty thoroughly covered, so I'm good.
Okay. Brendan.
I have no questions.
Penny.
No, I'm all set. Looks good.
Jen.
Yeah, I think I'm good on this. Lots of great detail, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy.
Yeah, so, I mean, essentially, it's it's a utility project and it's a big improvement, right? For a site that's right on the salt marsh, with a failed Title V. So, and I can confirm that the sewer commission, did, agree to, connections of these units into the sewer. So, it's just a matter of getting it done. I do think it's an approvable project. DEP had no comments. Think that you can probably close after taking public comment.
Is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this?
I don't
just have a
see anybody, Frank.
Okay, it's just two questions. I noticed there's a project landscape feature. Is that something that's new? Kind of like a circular piece that's
I
closest to
haven't seen that either.
Oh,
the
that,
marsh.
oh,
It says, protect the landscape features, so they just have to be careful of that. Okay.
yeah,
And then on the abutting property for the condominium project that's the condominiums at James Landing, it shows a 10-foot wide maintenance and access right away. And does that carry through on this property? It seemed to me when this project was conditioned that there's supposed to be an access easement through there. It ties into goes past the boatyard and then,
There is supposed to be.
and I'm just wondering why that doesn't show up on the plan.
that is, I see a 5-foot wide general use easement near the marina building, but no, I don't. And I'm not sure. I don't have the answer to your question about the 10-foot easement. Oh, is that the easement where the cursor is now? Is that?
Yeah, so I'm seeing that easement, but that's for the condos at James Landing, and I'm just wondering why that doesn't continue. Penny, do you remember that?
Yes, I definitely remember that. Right in front of the, where the sidewalk is, that is a public easement. At the, water's edge, the, whatever you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's public easement, and it should say on the plan.
Well, that would be something I could certainly, get the answer to.
Okay. Amy,
That's important.
do we want to?
We could add a condition
Make
or
that
make this pending receipt of revised plan that reflects that easement.
Yes,
I think
please.
it's important that it show,
Okay.
or it should be accurate.
Please.
All right. So I'll take a motion.
I make a motion to close with the stipulation of the orders asking for that easement to be on the plan. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Brendan.
It's Brendan. Great. Thank you, Brendan. So all in favor, Jen,
Yep.
Andy,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Where are we? 8 Newell Street. Christopher, when do we have anybody on?
I'm unmuting Chris. Chris, you're on.
Hi, folks. Chris Wynn here, from Newell Street. Attorney Jeff DeLisi, I believe, is also on the call here. Jeff, are you available? Thought he was on. Can we do the doc one first and then give Jeff a couple more minutes?
Sure. We have somebody from Grady.
Yeah, Paul Seberg. Paul, you on?
Yep, Paul's on.
Hey. Paul Seberg from Grady Consulting here.
Hey, Paul.
Hey.
You want to bring us up to date on that?
Right, so we actually, the latest plan is going to be the 8/24 version. I know we submitted some revised plans on 11/12/20, but we actually circled back to the original plan that we presented to the commission on 8/31/20. The reason being that kind of worked out best for the location of the existing moorings, which was the main concern of the commission at the last hearing. And since then, Chris has actually been working with the mooring owner out there and has come to an agreement with him to kind of adjust it as needed to accommodate his float. So I'd be happy to turn it over to any questions the commission may have. And also if Chris would like to elaborate on his conversations with the mooring owner, that may be helpful to the commission.
Sure. Why don't we hear that first?
So Fran Murray, who's also on Newell Street, is the owner of the float. Fran is, if he hasn't done so already, is going to be sending an email to Amy with that he and I have come to an understanding of the relocation of his mooring.
Okay. Is that something that you still have to work out with the harbor master? Once you guys agree, do you still go back to the harbor master?
So the harbor master, we met with the harbor master back in, I think it was August when we presented here. And the harbor master said, everybody agreed that there's plenty of room, but the harbor master was deferring to Russell Clark, who manages the moorings, in the area. And I have met with Russell several times and indicated that there's plenty of room for relocation. And also, as when we first got on the call, I was unaware that actually Fran was a neighbor on the street. I was following the sequence and the process here. So all those parties being Mr. Clark and the harbor master indicated that this wasn't going to be an issue. So that's why we didn't have you guys beat me to the punch, I guess, in terms of contacting Mr. Murray there. We've since had a discussion, and given that he's right there, he may also just put, in addition to relocating the mooring, may put a skiff or put that boat on the dock too.
Okay. So, so Amy, just if we close that on the dock, it still moves what to, what's the next step? Just I always get
Chapter 91.
confused. Yeah. So this just allows them to move to the next piece on this? Do we go ahead and close it?
Well, I mean, I feel like since it just went back to that plan that was not in front of you, that it probably would not be prudent to close until we make sure that everybody's on the same plan. And then also, I think that there was an ownership issue. So I think we should make sure that that is verified again before you close too.
Okay.
And I have not received an email or a letter from Fran Murray that I've seen. So.
No.
Right.
Okay, well, you should be receiving it, Amo. He texted me at 5:57 that he was sending it.
Okay. Kenny?
Yeah, I wanna see in writing that the owner of the mooring or the dock, whatever, that's already out there is okay with the movement. I don't want to close until I'm sure this is the right way to go.
Okay. Jen?
I echo Penny's statements.
Okay. Andy?
Good, nothing to add at this point.
Brendan?
I have nothing additional.
Amy, do you want to add anything else to that?
No, I don't think so.
Do we have any butters, any or interested parties? Anybody with their hand up on this one? So the design on this is pretty consistent with other docks that we've conditioned. It seems to me, looking at the plan. Am I right with that? I don't see much else is here. We have a description of how this is all gonna happen, like construction sequence or something. These driven piles or,
Yes, there'll be driven piles. The majority of the work will be taking place from a barge from the river. And then the closer ones towards land will take place from the existing lot there.
okay. I don't have anything else. Do we want to continue this separately, just to make sure you have that? Do you want to move this to the next meeting, or? What are you thinking?
Amy,
We've been running them with the other project, but if this one looks like it's going to be ready, we could put it on for the June 21st meeting,
okay,
potentially. If not, I mean, I think July 19th, we
Are we,
have much. So, I mean, if they're both together, it should go on the 19th, you know? But I'm not gonna do with the other one. Maybe you're ready to close the other one. I'm not sure. So,
if we're just waiting for a letter
from the owner.
from the owners, if that's the only hangup, is there any reason why we just can't?
Is all we're waiting for from a letter from Mr. Murray?
That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, can you just vote on a contingent? I mean, obviously, we're not going to, you know, we didn't make up the fact that he's on board and then gonna have a different outcome.
It has to be seen.
yeah, and again,
But with all due respect, is
The
that
other
even an
agencies-
environmental question?
of the other agencies it's reviewed this, I'm just wondering which one they've now signed off on. So it's like,
Yeah,
You know,
I'm not ready.
long time. So I think we should go back and make sure that we all looking at the same thing. Like I just said that, but
So go with the 21st, Amy?
yeah, why don't you do that? Sounds good.
Okay, I'll make a motion to continue 8 Newell Piles Pier work for new dock to June 21st.
Do you have a second?
I will
So
second that.
I'll let you finish, sorry.
Okay, all in favor? I'm sorry, do you want to comment? Anybody else want to? Go ahead.
Well, he actually just texted me. I'm at work on the road towing a truck. I can stop and email her if you have the address.
But
So I
there's
guess if you
other
want to continue to the next one, let's continue. But the you know, whatever we need to do.
So just to
Um,
clarify on Amy's comment real quick, the only other agency that has been submitted to is the Division of Marine Fisheries. And the only comment they had was just to maintain 6 feet of clearance between the salt marsh. So that's really the only comments any other agencies have had at this point in time. And that was based on this plan here.
Right. Yeah, I'm just not sure why this needs to be. If the only thing we're waiting on is some comment from the butter, I don't.
But we don't have it now, and we
Yeah.
won't have all seen it. I totally agree, Frank, but like, I don't think we can hold up the rest of the people that are paying their engineers while we wait for somebody to send an email.
No, I get that. So, but we have a meeting. When's our next meeting? June 7th, right? No, we have a meeting next week. So I just don't see why we can't just continue this, the dock portion to next week.
Amy, I think you're muted.
Sure, well, I mean, you guys do what you want. I mean, I'm telling you that our meetings are full. So if there's no discussion, then maybe you close pending receipt of the information that you're looking for. I mean, you've done that before. And that way we don't need to take them on another meeting at all.
I guess that to me would make the most sense.
Folks.
And it's just,
do
you know,
have-
that
do sorry, go ahead, Amy, I'm sorry. If
So
it
you
would
want me
help,
to make a motion that we will close pending we get written notification from the owner of the other mooring or whatever it is out there, that he will move his to make room for yours.
Is that something that needs to show up on the plan?
I don't know.
Chris?
So it is actually on the plan right now. It's basically we're showing to relocate that mooring.
Okay.
well, if it's all helpful, if I could share my screen, I can show you the text stream going back and forth within the last 15
Yeah.
minutes.
No, that's all right. No, we don't need that. Just, we've got it on the plan. I think Penny's made a good motion. Do we have a second?
Second, Andy.
Okay, so all in favor, Jen,
Yep.
Brendan,
Yes.
Frank, yes. Okay, thank you. All right, so did we get Jeff DeLisi on?
I don't see him on. I mean, is he on under another name, maybe?
Can we jump to Hadley Road and then see if you find him? Why don't we do that?
Okay.
I'll go on mute and try to track him down.
Okay,
392 have.
yeah. So I'm gonna do 392, 392R, and 396 Hadley Road. On May 17th, 2021, at 5:30 meeting, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Peter and Evelyn Finnegan for work related to invasive plant management plan at location at 392, 392R, and 396 Hadley Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend. Information to access the virtual meeting will be available on the agenda posted on the town website. And I think this is Brad Holmes.
Brad Holmes is on.
Great.
Good evening, members of the commission. Brad Holmes with ECR presenting this notice of intent for the three properties at 392, 392R, and 396 Hadley Road. We've submitted a vegetation management plan to work on the invasive plants that are on and near the site. You'll see the image there, which is a plan that we prepared that shows the location of the bordering vegetated wetland associated with the Musquashka Pond. And you'll also see the area, that's the bordering vegetated wetland is the area in green. And you'll see the area within the buffer zone that's designated in orange. That's the buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetland. The site is also within land subject to coastal storm flowage within the coastal flood zone, and it's associated with single family residences. The limit of the lawn and landscaped area is shown in that orange highlight. The line marks the limit of the lawn. So what we're looking to do is to have a management plan that includes ongoing mowing within the wetland and within the buffer zone to manage invasive plants. Within the wetland, the area is almost entirely dominated with Phragmites. The Phragmites also extends into the upland area. And then beyond the Phragmites up to the edge of the lawn is infested with Japanese knotweed. There are some wetland and native buffer plants within the area, such as arrowwood and some elderberry and staghorn sumac. So what we're looking to do would be to identify those native plants that are within the wetland and within the designated buffer zone, leave those plants untouched, but the areas around those plants that are invasive, we would mow and do a continual mowing program. There is some compost, some debris that would also be cleaned up. And the applicant is looking to do this ongoing management plan without the use of herbicides, so that it would be a routine mowing program, probably at least 4 or 5 times throughout the growing season, probably more, and just maintain the invasives through mowing. It's a long-term plan. It can be successful after years and years of management, so that you cut and stress the plant, and then over time, the plant is exhausted and eventually dies. These are hardy invasives, as you know, so it would be something that would have to be maintained. We do have in the proposal the use of some seed mixes, so that if we can get some bare spots and some open areas, we would look to seed those areas. We're not looking to do any planting at this time, because we're going to be mowing the area to manage the plants. The benefit of the ongoing management of mowing with Phragmites is that we remove the seed stock. So we're stressing the plant, but we're also removing the seed stock so that it doesn't have the potential to spread. The Japanese knotweed is a tougher plant, but it is manageable with ongoing mowing over time. So that the plan is that if we can get it to a state where we're have stressed the plants and have able to see some success, then we'll come back and reintroduce additional native vegetation in that area. The intent isn't to create a mowing program to expand a lawn. The intent is to get rid of the nuisance here and try to manage it without the use of herbicides. So really, it's as proposed within that portion of the BVW and buffer zone. And I know the commission hasn't heard of this type of a program from me, and it's something new that I haven't been involved with without the use of herbicides. But I think it's something that is a good step, and we can monitor it and see how it progresses. So take any questions you have.
Okay. And just for the record, I want to make a note that I have worked for the Finnegan family, specifically Mr. Finnegan's mom in the past, and over the years, some projects now and then, but I think I can look at this on non-biased basis. So who's up first on this one? Jen?
I am not an expert, obviously, but it feels I guess I'm kind of trying to understand the mowing of the buffer zone. I totally get that there's invasives there, but normally we try to get people to not mow these areas. So that's kind of the thing that I'm trying to balance, but I'm curious to hear what other commission members and Amy have to say. That being said, I love the idea of invasive plant management, so I'm just looking to understand that more.
Okay. Andy?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I like not using herbicide out near the pond like that. I like the commitment. It's going to take a while. So I do like it. Brad, out of curiosity, what do you do with what you mow? How do you get rid of that safely?
The first time of cutting, we're going to have a good amount of vegetation.
All outside.
So we're not going to necessarily just, well, ideally it would be good to remove it and dispose of it at a place that can process the invasives. We could mulch it in place, but after we have that first round of cutting, it's just going to be routine cutting in place. So we won't have a lot of material. There are options for the first cutting, which it's a little bit late now, but we could have burned it. We could leave it on site and let it decompose and deal with it in the winter. We can cut it and bring it to a place that can handle it, or we can mulch it in place.
Thanks.
Brendan?
I guess maybe I'm not as knowledgeable about the various species. So how are you're going to keep anything that's native? You're not going to touch that, but you're going to mow around it. Like, are these like, what kind of plants are these that, like, how do we differentiate that? Or is this like something that you're cutting by hand at first or something, or how does that work?
Sure. So what we would do is there are some native shrubs in there. Those shrubs would be flagged out prior to any work so that they're left untouched. There is a step-by-step process in the NOI narrative, but those plants that are native would be flagged in the field prior to any cutting activity so that they're avoided.
Okay, and then just really quickly, I guess, just curiosity, how long do you think it would take to kill these plants in this way?
A very long time, more than 3 years for the life of the order. It's going to be something where it's going to be a lot of work for the applicant, but maybe after 10 years, maybe more, maybe less. It's something that I'm new to as well, as far as just eradicating invasives without herbicide use, but it can be effective. So it's going to have to be it's a lot of work. I don't have a timeline for you, but it's going to be something where if we can get this controlled within the life of this order conditions, we'll have to come back for an extension to the order and have some monitoring program and keep updates to the commission.
Okay, thank you.
Penny?
Yeah, personally, I'd like to see the first cutting taken off-site, disposed at the proper facility. And if it is mowed regularly to keep it down low, then it should be all right to stay on site. But the first one, it's going to be a major cutting. I mean, you're not going out there with a lawnmower and mow it down the first time. So I really would like to see it taken off site. And in all honesty, the people that have used the chemicals, that takes years too. I mean, you have to keep going out and doing it, or the Phragmites especially come right back. We had a very unfortunate incident on a town piece of property, I won't say where, that we paid a lot of money for them to come in, get rid of the Phragmites, but nobody paid attention, and now it's all Phragmites again. So I know it's an ongoing process, no matter which way you go. So yeah, I'm willing to go along with this, but I really strongly feel as though the first cut, that needs to go off site and be disposed of properly. So there's nothing flying around. That's my 2 cents, Frank.
Okay. I miss anybody? Amy? I think you're muted. Amy? Oh, okay.
Sorry. Okay. So it's a unique project for sure. DEP had no technical comment. They, the project parameters as stated was under the 5,000 square foot of area allowable. So, I mean, under the wire at 4,800 square foot of disturbance BVW, 13,000 square feet of land subject to coastal storm flowage. Those were the numbers in the NOI. Definitely think that, there is mixed academic thought on, it's split on the protection that Phragmites provides. There, I mean, I did attend a webinar. I can't remember exactly, maybe it was Buzzards Bay Coalition or something like that, but it was about the importance of Phragmites and the protection that it plays for, flood hazard protection. But, on the other hand, it's admirable to manage it with pesticide free. And, I think that Brad's plan is unique and probably achievable, although certainly a long-term plan as described. So, I mean, I think that there should be some controls in the orders, like the area should be, they need to know the area that they're working with so that it doesn't expand. Probably, we don't want it like turning into grass. So if we can, every attempt to have a written descriptive plan about what native species you are trying to promote, and then the plan of attack on getting these mature Phragmites out of there off-site, like Penny said, Andy said, I mean, yeah, definitely we need a plan to get those mature cuttings out of there. And then maybe what happens if they miss a season and now all of a sudden you've got mature and then you're back at step one? I mean, so there's got to be some kind of a commitment in a described plan, I think, for this management. But I mean, I guess technically, it does meet the Wetlands Protection Act as a project that could be undertaken for ecological improvement. We could also consider 5-year orders rather than 3. And that's about it.
Right. I had a chance to, do we have anybody in the audience to speak to this?
Nobody's raising their hand. Oh, nope, there is Veronica. Hold on. We're gonna get Veronica.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Veronica McCormick and I'm here with Don Massa, and our property directly abuts the property on Hatherley. And we know the Finnegans and are, for the most part, very happy about the work that's going on here, the project.
Yeah, now what we're concerned about or questioning is the area that seems to be mowed down is taking away all the knotweed except for a little strip going back towards the road between, right on the property line there. And I was wondering why that's not included. Because if you leave a bunch of knotweed, it's just gonna spread out again.
Brad? can you,
Sure. The designation was, and this highlight was to identify the area of invasives closest to the bordering vegetated wetland, but I can clarify that on the plan and add the knotweed that's along the property line. Our goal is to handle all the knotweed in there, so I can expand that along that property line.
So to be clear, we would not oppose that.
I get you.
And also, I'm curious what kind of machinery is used for mowing? It can't be a traditional lawnmower.
The first cutting will probably be a weed whacker with a brush blade on it, more of a brush cutter. And then after mowing, it would be more of a, it wouldn't be a typical, household mower, but it would be a mower.
I see. And who does that?
A landscaper or a property owner, whoever would have the machinery.
Okay. And do you have a projected start of the job?
After we have an order of conditions, there's an appeal period. And after that is expired, we would review with the conservation agent on site, we'd flag out the invasives, we'd get everything in line. So if the commission were to approve it tonight or soon after, it would be within 3 weeks to 4 weeks before we could start.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? So Brad, you and I chatted about this a little bit, and it's an alternative. We've approved or conditioned several projects where people were trying to remove these same things, but using an herbicide. And so try this with mowing, but with the goal that it doesn't become a lawn, that it's something different than that. Is there going to be a height difference in the grass, say, between what's the mowed grass and then what's going to be left here? Or is that something that would this be a little bit taller, or I'm just wondering how that works.
As far as the designation between the existing lawn and the project area,
right?
Yes, there'll be the mowing of the invasives is going to be a little bit of a higher elevation, probably up to up to 6 inches or so, maybe 6 to 8 inches, and the lawn will be typical lawn. If we could put some, I think it's going to be very distinct where the lawn is, obviously now, and if we had to, we could put some markers out as far as where the limits are. But if we ever get to a point where if we get to a point where the area that was Japanese knotweed along the edge of the lawn and Phragmites appear to almost under control to a point where you couldn't discern the difference, then we'd be on the right path, in the sense that I think it's going to take a while before we can get to that limit. But as we said, you're not going to have it's not going to blend we're not going to be loaming and seeding it as lawn.
Sure. Is there a Penny was talking about, removing the material off site, and I just question which is the better thing to do. I mean, we go dumping this at Go Green, and then it gets mixed in with the mulch, and then it comes back out. Is there places that actually do that, or is it better left to compost on site and not spread it around?
Well, good question. Usually when it's sprayed with an herbicide, it kills it first. So once if you were to cut it and remove it and put it into a processing yard, it's dead. So the seed stock isn't viable. On this scenario, if we don't have a place that can process what we're bringing them, then we would have to probably stockpile it on site until it is dead, and wait till it decomposes to a degree that we know the seed stock is not viable before we can haul it off site. I honestly I haven't been involved in a case where we've had this type of operation. So unless we can find a place that is able to process it, then we'll have to hold it on site until we know it's completely dead.
And you're gonna flag the sumac and the other, trying to remember what
Correct. There's some elderberry and some arrowwood and sumac.
but you're not proposing to plant any more at this time. You think you're better off waiting?
Yeah.
I think so, because we're gonna have to be mowing amongst what's coming up. I think that I did include a wetland and a buffer seed mix into the proposal, so that if we can get some exposed soils, we can start seeding with those types of seed mixes and get some herbaceous vegetation, which won't be a problem to, mow over. And then if we can keep the Phragmites and knotweed back, then eventually we can just promote that meadow habitat.
Okay. I'm glad to see that we're looking at an alternative to the treatment with pesticides, and curious. It's a little bit of an experiment, and I personally wouldn't mind kind of poking around now and then after this moves along. Maybe you or the owner could notify the commission, kind of keep us apprised of what's been done there, a letter or just something. Just keep us posted so that we might take a look as well. Would be helpful. And it's a relatively small area. It's a little bit of an experiment. See how it flies.
Sure.
I think if they decide, if they cut it for a bit and then decide that's not working, and they want to try something different, obviously they'll need to amend the orders or whatever, but maybe keeping the orders open as long as we can to give them the opportunity to see how it works out would be good.
That would be great.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to close.
That's Penny. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Brendan, all in favor? Jen?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Good. Thank you. Thank you, Brad. Be interesting to see how it goes. Thank you.
Great.
Did we hear back from 8 Newell Street? They found Mr. DeLisi somewhere.
Yes.
Okay. Can we hear from him?
There we go. You guys finally can hear me now?
Yep.
Thank you for rolling with me this evening with my schedule. I appreciate it. Jeff DeLisi on the call tonight is Chris Wynn, the property owner, and we also have John Zimmer, our wetland scientist. I thought I kind of flipped around requesting a continuance of tonight's hearing, but I wanted to give the board a slight update as to where we are and what the thought process is that's prevailing at the moment. After our last hearing, or at the last hearing, there was a reference made to email correspondence with CZM, Rebecca Haney over at CZM. And so I was able to take a look at that correspondence, and it dawned on me that that Rebecca did not appear to have the benefit of all of the information. I think when Amy first communicated with her, it was prior to Mr. Zimmer's involvement and his mitigation plan. And so I reached out and spoke with Rebecca and explained what is happening on this property. And what I explained was that this is a previously altered site, significantly previously altered site that contains a pre-existing pool, and that that the buffer enhancement area was proposed to be 4-to-1 enhancement to alteration. And so, as I was speaking with Rebecca, one of the things that occurred to me was that CZM really is there to provide, they have guidance and policies, but they don't have any regulations that are binding on the commission. And so I had asked her to maybe in light of that additional information, if she could weigh in, and let the board understand what her thoughts are given this additional information. And she had indicated to me that really, she's got to stay in her lane, so to speak, and that information, she'd be happy to share it, but that's not something she would do absent the commission affirmatively reaching out to her for that. So I kind of wanted to bring, that to the attention of the commission. I know, this is not new construction. I know the commission would never allow a pool with new construction in Hummerock, or at least it doesn't appear to be the case. But I given that we have an opportunity here and the commission has an opportunity really to better take a situation that is not good right now and construe its regulations so as to have a much better situation afterwards, is something that I just want to encourage the commission to think about, because a denial in this circumstance means no buffer enhancement, a wall that's continuing to deteriorate, and a situation that, in my estimation, is not a sensible approach to the scenario at hand. So I was going to see if maybe Amy and Frank or anybody else from the commission might want to reach out to Rebecca and request her involvement, potentially a site visit. I don't know. She might benefit. So those are my thoughts tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Andy?
No, nothing to add to that.
Okay. Brendan?
I don't really have anything new to add.
Jen?
Yeah, I don't have anything new to add, especially given the recent communication that we've seen from Rebecca via Amy as well. So I'm good.
Okay. Penny?
Yeah, I have an opinion. Jeff, you said new construction. This is new construction. That's an above ground pool. They're asking for an in-ground pool, new construction. And the other part, I just don't see it flying, to be honest. Not in a coastal dune, but it is new construction he's asking to do down there.
All right. Amy?
I don't think I have anything new other than what I've already conveyed.
Okay, do we have anybody in the audience for this one?
We have Jeff raising his hand.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I put myself on mute because my son was calling. And, I couldn't unmute myself. Penny, the existing pool is a partially in-ground pool. I know it's not fully in-ground, but it is partially in-ground. I understand your position.
Yeah, by what? A foot? It's above ground pool. It is not in the ground. It is not a hole dug.
And the concept here would have been that if it is a fully in-ground pool, then there wouldn't be obstruction in the way of water flow sheeting over it if that ever were to occur, versus a partially in-ground pool, which acts almost like a wall within the resource area.
Jeff, we wouldn't put a foundation. It's a foundation you fill with water. You know, we wouldn't let them put a house and a foundation there. So you're asking me to allow them to have a foundation and then fill it with water. It's a coastal dune. I'm sorry, I just, bad.
Okay. I'm sorry, Amy, did you want to comment or are you all set? I can't remember.
I don't have anything new, but I mean, I can tell you that, well, because I wrote it to you in an email, so you know, but I mean, Rebecca is definitely there for additional technical support if you have questions, with respect to the, the topic here. But like Penny said, it's this in-ground pool, wall, they're structures not allowed in a coastal dune on a barrier beach. The interests of storm damage prevention and flood control are the interests that we're particularly concerned about. The plantings, I mean, I think that the planting enhancements, that should be approved if he wants approval for, enhancing his property that would be good, but no pools, no walls, wouldn't be consistent, so.
I guess
John's hand is up now.
John? And somebody unmute John. Go ahead,
Okay.
John.
Thank you. John Zimmer with South River Environmental. I just wanted to add that I think it would be beneficial to reach out to Rebecca again, given all the information that's been submitted subsequent to the first correspondence from Amy, and really ask for her opinion with respect to project performance standards. Looking at the end of the day, are the resource areas going to be able to function better to protect the interests of the act and the bylaw? The mitigation plan is very robust. It's a disturbed site. I understand fully Penny's and Amy's concerns regarding a foundation within the dune. But you also need to look at, what the function of the dune is, the importance of the ability of the material to move to protect against flood damage, storm damage prevention, and the other functions that a coastal dune has. And I think having an independent review and maybe some comments from Rebecca, may be helpful to kind of move this off center a little bit.
Thank you.
Right, so Rebecca's seen all the information and her comment is, let me know if the commission has any technical questions, but her opinion has not shifted with respect to flood protection and storm damage prevention. So, but you know what? I mean, I'm on board with having her go out there and putting her eyes on the site, having, if that's what you'd like to do. Although when I asked her for a date, again came back with her schedule's quite booked, and could we be specific with what questions that you have with respect to her opinion about this matter? So if we can have, if we have, you know, specific questions, that would be good if any of the commissioners have that, or, and either, and I could also just try to get, you know, get a date from her. But I think that it won't be quick, or actually, I have no idea. Maybe she'll be in the area sooner than later. I don't know, but that's what she said, so.
Thanks, Amy. I guess when I first looked at this project and not having done a site visit, I was pretty much convinced that nothing would be allowed here. And I'm still not sure that building a pool in that location is the correct thing to do with a dune, but there's a lot of conflicting pieces. When we've conditioned projects in Hummerock, if someone has a driveway or some other type of structure that's pre-existing, we encourage them to make modifications or changes, but we don't take it away from them. And so right now there's although it's a dilapidated above ground pool, there's a pool there. How long it's been there, I'm not sure. Undoubtedly, it probably wasn't conditioned, but there's a whole bunch of stuff on that site that is not very good. There's a mound on the north side that keeps water from flowing. There's a series of buildings that were built sort of in it's almost like a little compound, some with foundations, some with piers. It's just very altered. And it does appear to me that the owner wants to make improvements there. At the same time, obviously they'd like to have some amenities as well. And we have asked Rebecca to look at kind of more difficult projects, to meet us on site. I can remember being out at the end of the old Driftway and down on Turner Road, a few other places where things were sort of beyond the norm. And I think a site visit, even if it's going to be out there a little bit, wouldn't be a bad thing, Amy. I just, and maybe as many commission members that could attend to take a better look at this would be helpful. And I'm not saying that a pool is going to be allowed there, but I do think it would be helpful if more people could see that and get a real grasp of this site, because it's pretty different. So
Yeah, Frank, so why don't I work on that? I mean, and
I saw her email, and I know that she's really busy, and I'm not quite sure how to phrase that to get her out there, other than it's a very different site than when you look at the plan. And I know that the rules don't change, but it would be good for someone to take a look at it. In my
right, because like we say, I mean, we don't want to go against the principles of the people that give the town money and condition a project that is unlike one that we've conditioned before.
That's
for you.
That's the dilemma. So let's maybe.
Yeah,
let's see.
what's out there was definitely not conditioned. I'm not sure much of the work was conditioned. And it is, the house is on a solid foundation. It's not on piles.
Right.
But yeah, so let me work on a date, and in the meantime, I think a continuance, probably till July 19th is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Okay.
All
7:19.
All right, so Amy, you'll follow up with Rebecca and then report over to us. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
You win. All
I'll
right.
make a motion to continue to July 19th, 8 New Street Pool.
Oh, wait, Chris Wynn has his hand up. Can we?
Oh. Yeah.
Can we unmute him? Hey, Chris.
I think I'm unmuted now. Yeah, just a point of clarification. In the last statement, someone said the house is not raised on pylons. The house is all on piers. There is a guest house and a third shed building that was set up for medical treatments of the prior owner that are on concrete block foundations. Those are accessory buildings, but the entire property is up on piers.
Thank you. Thanks for
Oh,
clarifying.
yeah, and I think my point was, I'm not sure it meets the requirements of like current coastal or height, but either way, thanks for that clarification, Chris.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Penny, we had a motion to continue to July 19th, right?
Yes.
And did I get a second?
I'll second that.
That's Brendan. All in favor, Jen?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're on to 10 Pennycrest. And that was continued. We've already opened it. So who do we have on?
Looks like we have Ann Burbine and maybe Brad Holmes too on, looks like, so hold on. Okay, so I have both Brad and Ann on. I mean, essentially, this is an after the fact. So and when we opened it, meaning that Frank read the public hearing notice or public meeting notice, whatever that the notice that was put in the paper. But we haven't really heard what happened from the owner and or her wetland scientist, Brad. So why don't we just get right into it?
Okay.
Sure, I
All
can.
right, I had a portion. All right, Brad, go ahead.
I can jump in quickly, and I don't want to cut anybody off. So I have coordinated with Ann in Cavanero Consulting. The image that you see on the screen is a sketch that I prepared for Ann in Cavanero Consulting, which indicates the location or approximate location of a bordering vegetated wetland in green and a inland bank to a perennial stream further into the wetland system. I was out a couple of weeks or so ago and delineated the wetland system as you've seen. I know that John Cavanero is looking towards preparing a site plan so that I can work with Ann and John to develop a restoration proposal. That sketch that's there is just an approximate location of where a bordering vegetated wetland and perennial stream may be, so that it's something that a surveyor can look for when he goes onto the site. So there hasn't been any field measurements in that image. But what I can tell you is that the work that was done on 10 Pennycrest was up to a stone wall that's along the back of the property. That stone wall borders the bordering vegetated wetland, and as you go down into the wetland system from the stone wall, it's a clear, distinct change from the wetland to the upland. And the work that was done in the buffer zone consisting of vegetation removal was up to that wall. So there wasn't any work within the bordering vegetated wetland. I can't tell you if we're in a riverfront area or not until we have a survey. And there is a land subject to coastal storm flowage FEMA A zone that extends into the site as well. That will be located on the plan. So at this time, we have been able to delineate the wetlands and work to get a survey together. And as soon as we have that plan and get a restoration proposal coordinated with our team, we'll get it to the commission. But other than that update, I don't have any other news for the commission.
Okay. Ann, did you want to add to that?
No, I will do whatever the commission wants me to do. It was just one of those things that I possibly overstepped without knowing, and I've lived on the property for 38 years and never gave it a thought. And apparently most of my property is in the buffer. So who knew? The structure was built in 1850. This used to be a farm. So at any rate, it's done, and I will do whatever you want me to do to fix it.
Okay, thank you. You can go back to Penny, I guess.
Okay, so we're kind of waiting for a restoration plan to revegetate what was taken out of there. Is that, am I understanding that, Brad?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, these things happen. That's life.
Okay. Jen?
I don't think I have anything else to add right now.
Okay. Andy?
Nope, nothing to add.
Brendan?
I have nothing to add here.
Okay. Amy?
I guess I don't have anything to add at this point either. And for coming to us as an after the fact RDA and getting the professionals on board, and we can develop a plan to restore with appropriate vegetation. So I'd say that we should probably continue this maybe June 21st or that July meeting is what I'm looking at.
Okay. Do we,
Brad, do you think you could, is June 21st doable before that? Because we have a 2-week deadline before the 21st.
do you have a plan yet from Cavanero?
I don't. That's why I don't have a good answer yet. I know they were, I believe they were out to survey, or they have it on their schedule. So I don't have a plan yet to direct.
Friday.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It was surveyed on Friday.
Okay. So they're moving forward, but we just don't really know that you'll have an opportunity to get that survey. I know they're behind as well. What are our options to continue this?
Either 6/21 or 7/19. Yeah, yeah, that's.
So
I think we could do June 21st, and if I can't make it, I'll get an update to the commission why and a status where we're at, and then request a continuance with Ann.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, I think just something to remember, we've got a similar issue going on First Parish Road. I think in this case, the applicant or the property owner has moved along to get this corrected. And I think that's what we look for with most of these. We certainly don't like to see them happen, but when people respond in a positive way that it'll get corrected, then at the end of the day, maybe there'll be something better there than what existed. So we appreciate your moving forward and getting the right people to go to work on it and try to get it resolved as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to continue the RDA for 10 Pennycrest to June 21st.
A second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Brendan. All in favor, Jen?
Yep.
Andy?
Yes.
Frank, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thanks for.
Thanks.
So now, certificates of compliance. You're good with Pondview Ave?
Yes.
Okay.
And
order.
actually, I wanted to add, couple others to it.
Say that again.
Yeah, we have another couple that are gonna go out too. Oh, I know, 33 Common and 47 Penfield. We're also gonna get issued. Those were both septics also.
Okay, good.
Okay.
We're trying to churn out high volumes of paper, you can see.
There's no lack of things to do.
Well, I mean, the amount of trees we cut down for being a conservation office is kind of ironic, but anyways, and then orders, couple sets of orders to vote on.
I make a motion, we accept the orders for 117, 119 Edward Foster as written.
And why don't
Oh,
you do the-
and I can't pronounce that. 12 CAR
Isn't that Carnsley?
Carnsley Lane. Thank you.
Okay, so I got a motion. How about a second?
Second, Andy.
Thanks, Andy. All in favor, Jen?
Yep.
Brendan?
Yes.
Frank, yes, thank you. Okay. Discussions.
Four Cliff Estates.
Yeah, what happened there?
All right, so that was just one of those things where apparently they decided to switch the project. So a few weeks ago, I was looking for one site and I went down that road and I knew I had, pre-construction to Costello on starting that we had had some orders and a notice of intent for a little bit of site work there. It was one of those sites where if you recall the site, it was the second notice that we had received in the year. One was for some driveway wall work, and then the other one was the one we're talking about, and it was for a couple of additions, like one in the front of the house, one in the back of the house, tight site. We had quite good discussion about it. Anyways, turns out that they just tore the house down. So it became a total level job. So anyways, they don't have, they didn't have a building permit to do it. They didn't have orders to do that. They had submitted an application to the zoning board of appeals because they were planning on increasing the footprint of the house more than 20% or something, that kicks in some kind of a zoning request. But anyways, so I guess that the discussion part is, they added some silt sock. The site appears to be stable, but just how do you want to keep this site? How do you want to handle this site? Do you want to, I'm for trying to keep this going. I don't know if you want them back in front of you with an amended plan and description with maybe some infiltrators. Because now that the site's not really as it was presented to you during the hearings, you've got a clean slate, right? So do you really want those infiltrators that you talked about that they said they want to give you?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want to fine them? I don't know. These are just things that I'm putting out there. I don't necessarily think that it was, that it was one of those things where they were trying to dupe us intentionally. Like, I just think it developed, like they were gonna take one floor off and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, looks like this other floor should come off too. And, I don't know. Putting it out there.
Do they have a telephone?
Anybody want to comment? I've got a couple thoughts. Penny, what's your?
do they have a telephone? At least call and let us know. I mean, definitely, the orders that we gave was not for a raise and rebuild, so I feel as though it definitely has to be amended, the orders, and ask for the infiltration. They're putting up a new building, and it's bigger. That's my feeling.
It's almost an entirely new project.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means from a paperwork process perspective, but it's different. And I question why we would even question whether to find somebody for tearing down a house without the right permit. Not any judgment towards you, Amy, just more like of course we're finding for something like this.
We had voted a set of orders for this site. Am I right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
it was for them to add on to an existing home,
Right.
not to demolish the building. So when Amy sent me the pictures and told me about that, I suggested that we make sure that they know that they can't remove the foundation. I mean, sometimes a building inspector has granted permission to demolish a building and not come before us. That has happened. You know, the applicant claims that there's no earthwork. So do we know if they're going to be asking for a new foundation for this, Amy, or are they going to build on the existing foundation?
Well, they're gonna, that's kind of a, there wasn't like a real fast answer for that. I mean, and I think that a portion of the foundation is gonna be changed for sure.
So do we feel that we can amend the orders that we already have to allow for a new foundation as opposed to a new filing?
Well, so, all right, I mean, an amended order and a notice of intent really, they're really one and the same, honestly. I mean, except for the fact that an amended order, you use the same file number, but you still have a public hearing, you still notify your abutters. The filing fee is less. New notice, you're gonna get a new number, start from scratch. I mean, I guess that the call would be is if they are doing basically the same project, just now they're replacing the house and now it's a clean slate like a yard, and they can agree to maybe add some infiltrators for the roof runoff. Maybe then it's not even amending the orders. Maybe it's just accepting a revised site plan, which we could do. And that would not trigger a public hearing. You know what I mean? But so if it's amending the orders or it's a new notice, the differences are public hearing cost and whether or not it is appealable. So if we just are accepting a site plan, we can bring them back in. Maybe you fine them, maybe you come to an agreement and then you accept a plan under those orders, or you make them file again. I mean, probably the simplest thing administratively is to do the latter. That maybe the latter with a fine. I mean, they did stop right away. I don't think it was necessarily intentional. I mean, on a similar site, but the similar situation where it was kind of an oops, the house fell down type of thing. That particular party did get fined pretty substantially. But we have what they need. So it's kind of one of those things where if they're going to rebuild, they're going to pay. But we need to be able to justify whatever fine it is that you hand out. Right.
So one of the things they should have done with that thing has obviously requested a pre-construction. So I'm assuming that never happened.
No, I did. I had a pre-construction with Leo. But at the time, they weren't tearing it down. Like, so they didn't have a demo permit from the building department. I mean, it was on the day that it was encountered, there was a site cease and desist from the building inspector too. I mean, so there was no like materials survey. They test this, the house for like lead and asbestos and stuff like that. It was literally put in dumpsters. It was one of those like, now you see it, now you don't. So.
Oh, Lord.
Well, certainly a new filing is going to be costly to them as opposed to a fine. So did they give you any indication of what they plan to do there?
Well, I think that they met with Bob and Neil, and they're trying to make the decision about whether they want to rein the project in and keep with the zoning board of appeals hearing that they have, because I don't even think that they're on the docket with them until July. And that was for the expansion in the size of the house on the lot. It's greater than it should be. So I'm not sure. I mean, but I have to say that they have a project manager who was immediately in contact with me, and he's like, whatever you need, we will do. So like they had the silt sock up the next day, they had site tidied up, an offer to put infiltrators in wherever we, whatever we want, we can have it. So as far as like what we need to keep the site stable. And so I think maybe, I don't know,
That is really
you do
nice to
want it
hear.
back in front of you, because then you can, think about it with the plan in front of you and like, what really, do we want this site to look like? Because I mean, it was just kind of funny the way it came to you, it's like a driveway 1 minute, and then it was like, all right, we're gonna do a deck and addition, and like, it was hard to kind of like wrap your arms around what was going on and how you could possibly fit in like, treatment or anything like that. So, but now if you go by it now, it's just like a big pile of dirt. So, I mean, you can see you could get whatever you want really, right? Well, there's a septic system on one side, but other than that, you're pretty wide open.
Okay. So is the consensus from the commission that they should just refile?
Yes,
Benny,
I vote for that.
Jen,
Yeah.
Andy?
Yep.
And Brendan?
Yes.
Refile.
Okay, so then the number that they have for these orders, we'll just have them file request for CFC, work never commenced.
Yeah.
And new notice of intent.
Yep.
And fine or no fine.
It's kind of egregious, but I think there should be a fine because you literally demoed a house. But that being said, the communication from the project manager is definitely something that I'd want to keep on our side. It's so rare that somebody is so wildly responsive and kind of wants to be a good partner. So I think there could be some middle ground there.
Yeah.
Not totally one way or another, but some middle ground.
Yeah. I think given that they filed, there's erosion control, all that sort of stuff in place. It's not like they just went out and did this without doing anything with us, although it's not what we agreed to. But I think if they refile, I can live with that.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
All right, so on to Sunoco Station.
Yeah.
I met last week with Dave Westman, who is the owner of the Sunoco Station on 3A. And things went pretty well. I have pictures and I haven't sent them out yet, but I mean, there's fill, truckloads of fill that have been, you know, just what we suspected is going on, has been happening. And it's been happening for quite
Years.
some time. And what he told me actually was that drainage from 3A drained onto his property. And you could see where there's the drainage pipe that exits out in the back, which I will forward out that picture, and that is the source of much of the water on his property. But regardless, he is going to get a wetland scientist and come up with an estimate of area that's been filled and come up with a restoration plan and also block access to the back area so that nobody can dump there anymore. So.
Has he been putting the fill in
Progress.
there? That's what I'd like to know. What are his plans for that property that's wet?
I don't think he's got any plans.
And why was he filling it in?
You know, I didn't really ask him why. I think he's got some kind of a deal going with the guy that he bought the property from.
Okay.
Eddie,
whatever.
and I don't know. All I
Yeah.
know is that he was pretty nice to me and we had a good conversation and I had the police with me and everything. And I mean, we'll see. I mean, obviously actions are louder than words, right? So, but I mean, he definitely seemed to be like, you know, he was going to do the right thing and, you know, put an end to the madness. So I was happy with that.
Okay.
I think that somehow the story keeps going there, though, that all of a sudden someone sneaks in and dumps a few more loads and they don't know where it came from. And then they
Oh, yeah.
just spread it out. So either it's got to get fenced off or blocked off or
Mhm.
something as part of their restoration plan. But hopefully this is enough of a notice that
Well,
nothing will.
That he had was, does he want me, do I want him to start like digging it out? And I was like, hold on, don't do that. Let's,
Yeah.
you know, like, I don't want to make it worse. You know what I mean? By just going in there. But I mean, definitely like, there's a lot of different stuff that he's been bringing out there. I mean, it doesn't look like hazardous materials. Mostly it's like people's lawns that have been dug up or like maybe some rubble of some sort.
Right.
Not really, I didn't see drums or anything like that, you know.
No, it's never been anything like that I've seen. It's just, like you say, it's different contractors digging stuff out and looking for a place to dump it, have put it there. You're muted.
Dave was super nice and I don't really necessarily think he was thinking about it. I think that's the thing, right?
Right.
Now he is.
Okay. Oh, let's, so,
You
I'm
have a
sorry.
time frame on this, Amy?
I'm gonna give him some people and like I'm gonna do like a memorandum of understanding with him with some names of some people and I'll associate a time frame. Yes, good idea.
Yes, please do, because I really don't, this has been going on for a few years now. So it's time to, you know, step it up and get it taken care of. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Frank, camping and kayaks and then it's getting dark.
It is. It's time to go.
Only 8.
Well, you're already at home. So you saw the email. I think everybody saw the email with regard to the Scouts and potential camping site. And after a lot of back and forth and discussion, it seems like a good solution may be an area that's on conservation, Town of Scituate conservation property, located sort of behind the Rod and Gun Club. It's an area that has had some alteration in the past, and it seems to lend itself well. It's got good access. They can figure out things like a porta potty and getting supplies in and whatnot. And I'm very much in favor of trying to work with the Scouts on this. I think they've been super helpful to the commission as well as other town agencies. They lost the ability to camp last year as a troop because of COVID. And then it doesn't look like they'll be able to go to the normal campsites this year, but with things opening up, they'll be able to have their own camping. And I just think it kind of goes along with things that we've had in our plans. And I can't imagine why this wouldn't be some sort of an alternative. You know, they need to get back to us with some more details, and I'd like to hear from you folks as to whether things you think they should or should not consider doing. And if you agree.
So I was involved in some of the back and forth, and I fully support the idea of the Boy Scouts or the Scouts in general, whether they be Girl or Boy Scouts, troops being able to camp in Scituate. And I love that the Rod and Gun Club area is a good fit for it. My interest would just be in keeping in the loop on what their plans are, because the initial email that we had from Nico was definitely ambitious. So just to see a revised plan, or just to kind of, not even something wildly formal, but to understand what their year one intention is. But I'm totally for it, and whatever I can do to help, I would be happy to do so.
Thank you, Jen. Andy?
Yeah, I like it. I like they found a good spot for it. I like that you can get porta potties out there. That seems like the best option for sanitation and the ecology. So if it works for everybody, I mean, yeah, like Jen says, I mean, we don't want them going crazy building structures and stuff out there, but they keep it minimal. It sounds good.
Okay. Brendan?
Yeah, I have the same feeling. I'm for it. I think it sounds like a good plan.
Penny?
Yeah, when you say structures, Andy, what do you mean? It might not have happened this year, but if they do make that a permanent site, I would anyways allow them to put platforms out there for the tents to go on. And that is allowable, even though Wildlands Trust, this land does not have a CR on it. It is prior to any of this that the town acquired this land, okay, back in the 70s, 80s, whatever. 70s, I think, to be honest, if not before. But anyways, no, they'd make a fire pit, a fire ring, whatever, and platforms would be allowed if we did even have a CR on this, but not houses, you know, sheds and stuff like that. But I just think it's phenomenal. Years ago, we had a site for First Parish, almost into Norwell, when my brothers were Scouts, which was a million years ago. But anyways, I just am so excited to have this happen. And I'd love to see it a permanent thing in town. My 2 cents, Frank.
When we met out there and talked with some of the parents and the scout leader and whatnot, I guess I was thinking the platforms would keep these guys from like getting wet or damp or something. But I guess, you know, there was the conversation about bugs, ticks, that kind of thing. And then the other one was lightning, which I hadn't thought of, but apparently if it's up on a platform, it's safer. So
yeah,
I mean, they're not sheds or huts or anything. They're simply an elevated platform. And, you know, should it not work out they wouldn't be that difficult to remove from
Dismantle.
there. I think we do have to come up with some rules as notification. We're gonna have to work with them, with the fire department and police and whatnot. And then I think this site also would need to be able to be used by other groups if there winds up being an outing club at the high school or something. It's not a campground, but it could be a site used by different
Youth group.
organizations, if we agree. Um, does that make sense?
Yes, it
Totally.
would be youth groups, right, Frank?
Yes.
Yes, it's not for public. It's
Right.
youth groups, whether it's a church group or something from the high school where they are, have an adult with them out there. It's not a campground for funny business.
No, I mean, we're gonna give permission. We're also, because of the way they're accessing it,
Yeah.
the gun club, they need to coordinate with the gun club. And I think,
Mhm.
you know, the gun club's hopeful that maybe there'll be some positive aspects for them. You know, maybe some
Sure.
people could join, maybe the kids could do some help around there. They're already talking about you know, maybe setting up some things with their instructors if the kids want to learn to target practice. So far it seems good, but we know that we got to kind of work out some of the
Sure.
details. So, but if it's
Sure.
okay with everybody, the next step for us, when Amy and I discussed this with the town administrator, he felt that we should notify the Board of Selectmen that we'd like to do this. So if it's okay with everyone,
Yes.
we'll try to see if we can get on and just let them know what our plans are. Is that okay?
Go forward.
Sounds great.
Great. Thank you. What else?
Oh, I have something that you guys have all heard, I'm sure, that was exciting news, is that the state of emergency is officially lifting as of June 15th.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that very well may have ramifications for this department. And I mean, it's like, I'm waiting for, you know, the official whatever word for the town on what's going to happen with public meetings and stuff like that. But also, you know, one of the things was permit extensions were tied to the state of emergency. So when the declaration of emergency is over, I mean, unless there's other guidance, it's going to now keep extending these permits. It means that, you know, that's done. So, I mean, I'm like everybody, I'm going to be very thankful and grateful to get back to normal, but what that will look like for us, I guess, is to be determined. I mean, y'all do look pretty happy there in your in your home offices. I don't know. There's something to be said about in-person meetings too, you know. But it's kind of tight in the selectmen's room, so I'm not sure. Again, any thoughts? Like, how would you all prefer it without having this be an elaborate discussion? Maybe we should just email our comments and thoughts. But because I think we will get guidance, you know, open meeting law type stuff.
Amy, on the extension, does that mean that people will have like an extra 18 months to do their project, or is it if they've already expired or they've ended?
No. So as of the date of the emergency declaration, no permit in effect was expiring. So that means that everything just auto extended. So we've been extending permit extension requests that have been coming in, but we held them for, you know, there was a time when we didn't really process them, but then we processed most of them. So we don't really have any money outstanding, but I mean, it keeps permits alive, similar to like the Permit Extension Act, which was good for the economy and stuff like that, you know, keeps down people who are developing their cost, like that sort of thing. But when the emergency is over and if that, deadline is now done. So now every, permits will now expire again, so. So
Right.
a permit that would expire after June 15th actually is expired. And I think it gives you like a window that Baker has, it's all written down. It's very complicated, but it's like, I think you have 45 days from the date of the end of the emergency to act on whatever hasn't been acted on. You know what I mean? It'll all be spelled out. And I will get guidance from my network.
Okay.
Affects us, but
Well, if anybody's got thoughts on how they want to meet, I don't know if there's some hybrid of that or whatever. Let's get some input and see what we think. I'm assuming most of everyone is going to be vaccinated, but that's important too. So, okay.
because I mean, before this, we met in person. All applicants and people who wanted to participate needed to come to the building. And then our meetings were taped by Scituate Cable TV and then shown on cable TV's network, which I think is associated with Comcast or something like that. But it was also, our meetings go up on YouTube. But anyways, I don't know. I think that the Zoom seems to work out pretty well for a lot of people, but there's some downsides to it. Like, I don't think that on some of these bigger projects, you get the detail on this small screen. You know what I mean? You really need your plans in your own instrument so you can zoom in and see what we're talking about. Don't you agree? Which in person, you get that, like.
Right. Well, let's closing in. So let's give us some thought. Anybody's got any thoughts? When you shoot them in an email and we'll go from there. It'd be good to be back to normal.
Can I ask a question?
It's short.
It's short. I've driven by Museum Beach. Have you or Amy been down there? It almost looks like it's revegetated itself. It looks pretty full from the street. So I'm just wondering. I mean, they want a beach there, no?
I haven't looked at it, Penny. We were gonna pick up a lesser amount of beach grass, and then we want to get up some stakes and ropes and cordon that off.
Okay, because from the street, it really looks healthy. It's not like it was last year with all these flat areas.
Well, we know that we want to cordon some of that off, and if we can
Sure.
supplement that with some plantings, we've got the scouts on board to do that.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. And what about kayaks here on this list?
Oh, kayaks.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, actually, that kind of jumps to Andy. Oh, the kayaks, I was like, what? The kayak
racks.
racks proposed by the waterways people.
Yep.
Yeah, well, we're not getting a lot of positive feedback by that for that idea.
I don't think the selectmen like it.
It's complicated.
It's a liability.
Although we've okayed the locations, you know what I mean, as not being an environmental threat necessarily, but it's all the other stuff that we don't want to be involved with, and it's really not us, but just the feedback that we're hearing is not positive necessarily.
Okay, good to know.
All right. We can have more on that.
Yeah.
At a shorter
Yeah,
meeting.
and next week, it's gonna be here, next Monday, we're gonna do a quick RDA meeting, so.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll have a little more info for the,
Yeah, septics and not a lot of discussion, like bim bam out in like an hour and a half.
Well, let's do a lot of them.
there's a goal.
Pile down.
Okay.
Okay, I make a
So
motion. to
thank you,
adjourn.
everybody.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I gotta get that motion, Penny.
Yes, I make a motion to adjourn.
I second that emotion. Motion.
That was quick. That emotion. All in favor? Ken,
Aye.
Andy,
Yes.
Frank is absolutely yes. You guys all have a nice night.
You too. Thank
You
you.
too. Good night.
Bye.
Goodbye.